Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with another episode of Storycraft. Continuing our theme for February of love stories, I thought, because I brought it up last time when I talked about Eros and Psyche, I would tell you guys the story of Apollo and Hyacinthus so you can kind of see where this beef really takes root. And we'll talk more about that at the end of the story. But right now, let's get into it. So in the tale of Apollo and Hyacinthus, we are greeted with Hyacinthus, who is a Spartan prince who is beautiful, like just a beautiful, beautiful man. He has so many admirers, men and women from all over are just super like goo-goo-eyed. They love this man. He is gorgeous. He's so gorgeous that he catches the eye of two gods. Apollo, the sun god and god of poetry and medicine, as well as Zephyr, the god of the west wind. So Zephyr is the one who flies, words are really hard, who flies down to meet him first. And Zephyr spends some time with him. He takes Hyacinthus flying. They're having a grand old time. And then one day, Apollo's like, all right, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to shoot my shot. So Apollo comes down to Earth and goes to meet Hyacinthus, and they immediately hit it off, because like they have so much in common. They're both gorgeous, for starters. They're both into sports, so they're really athletic people, and they're like, you lift, bro, I lift, bro. Like they just click. They click immediately. They love music, they love games, they love good food. Like, what's not to hit it off with? They have so much in common that they hit it off immediately and fall fast and hard into love. And Apollo isn't just like in love. This man is like over the moon, absolutely smitten with Hyacinthus, and he gives him gifts and entertains him endlessly. And when I say entertains him endlessly, you guys, I mean like anything Hyacinthus asks for, he's like, you can have. Don't even ask it. Just say you want it. I will give it to you, because he loves this man with his whole heart. And one of the things that Hyacinthus loves is to watch Apollo flex his godliness. Like, he loves when Apollo does God stuff. So much that he is constantly asking him, like, hey, babe, do something deity specific. Do something magical. Wow me. Outrun these hinds. Do this cool, like, archery thing, like shoot a bow through a tree, like an arrow through a tree. And Apollo's like, yeah, I can do it. Anything you tell me you want to see me do, I can do, because I'm a god. And he does it. Like, he doesn't even hesitate. If his lover wants to see him like jump the palace, he jumps the palace. And this just is an absolute delight to Hyacinthus. This is like one of those rare cases where like a mortal isn't just wowed by a god, like, oh my god, I can't believe a god is talking to me. This is amazing. He's like, I know that you're a god. I love that you're a god. I want to see some god shit. And he puts Apollo through it, and Apollo is more than happy to do this for him, because he absolutely adores Hyacinthus. And one day, Hyacinthus is like, hey, I want to see how far you can throw this discus. And Apollo's like, I'm going to throw it super far, because I'm a god. Like, you already know how far it's going to go. It's going to go forever if I want it to go forever. And he's like, I don't just want to see you throw it, though. Like, I want to see you throw it around a mountain. And Apollo's like, around a mountain? Yeah, I can do that. Bet. Like, I'm a god. Got it. So that's what he does. They go out there. He winds up. He throws this discus. He throws it super hard with the perfect geometry that only gods can do. And it flies around this mountain range and comes back. And if you're wondering how this could possibly go wrong, well, remember Zephyr, guys? Zephyr, who loved Hyacinthus first, who took him flying and was like, we're going to be like soulmates. We're going to be together forever. And then Hyacinthus immediately forgot about him because Apollo showed up. Yeah, Zephyr took that personally. He took it so personally that he was like, you know what? How dare you forget about me? And when he sees this discus fly through the air, which is his realm, and start flying back around. And he sees Hyacinthus like running to get ready to catch it. He's like, you know what? Fuck you. And causes the discus to fly off course at the last second by pushing it with the wind. And what happens is it flies off course and lands directly into Hyacinthus's head, killing him instantly. And Apollo is shook because he doesn't know that Zephyr was involved. And he thinks that he just killed his lover. So he runs over there and in a panic, he tries to heal him because he's the god of healing. So, he's going to do what he's best at. So he starts dumping all this magic, like hand over fist, into Hyacinthus to try to fix him. And it doesn't work. It's without avail. And devastated, Apollo does the only thing he can think to do. He takes Hyacinthus' body, he goes down to Hades and the underworld, and he goes up to Uncle Hades and he's like, hey, Uncle, could you do something? And Hades is like, I can't bring him back from the dead. We're all bound by the same laws of fate. Once a mortal's thread of life has been cut, there's no returning them to life. I can't do that for you. Like, I'd love to help you, but I can't do anything for you. And Apollo's like, I know the rules. I was kind of hoping that there was a way you could do something, but I also understand that, we can't go against fate. But since we can't do that, could you just kill me so I can be with my lover down here forever? And Hades is like, but you want me to kill my brother, Zeus, the sky god's son? The sun, who's the sun god, who's literally the sun god because Zeus made him the sun god. So he's like the center of the sky, his favorite son. You want me to kill Zeus's favorite son? I can't do that for you, buddy. So Hades declines. Reasonably so. Nobody wants to incur the wrath of Zeus. Also, it's a huge crime in ancient Greece to kill a family member. So he's definitely not going to take on the burden of doing that. So Hades refuses, and Apollo goes back up to the land of the living, and when he emerges to the land of the living, Hyacinthus' whole body changes into the flower that bears his name, the hyacinth. And it's the result of all this magical energy that, like, Apollo poured into him, traveling to the underworld and coming back, like, transformed him into this flower. And Apollo decides that he's going to dedicate this flower to his lover because the flower is a close second to the beauty of Hyacinthus. And on it, he writes some words in Greece that I can't pronounce, but they mean alas. So, like, alas, my love, I knew thee well, kind of super romantic, kind of what you expect from the god of poetry. And the hyacinth has bared Hyacinthus' name forevermore. Also, the hyacinth flower is also a symbol of Apollo, and something that you can use in, like, his center of worship. And that's the end of the story. But I promised to tell you guys where the beef came from between Apollo and Eros. So let's all pour one out for Hyacinthus and maybe go buy some hyacinths when they show up in the supermarket, like towards springtime, and just sort of admire that beautiful love and what could have been if Zephyr hadn't been a jealous little bitch. But to tell you guys about the Apollo Eros beef, I thought I would start out by telling you a little bit of Apollo's origin so you kind of have a full picture of how this came about. So Zeus, on one of his infamous trysts, hooks up with the Titaness Leto, and when Hera finds out that she is not only the mistress of her husband, she's also pregnant with his children, she's like, you know what? As the goddess of marriage and childbirth and the family, like, I'm going to curse you. I'm going to curse you so that you have to wander the earth forever because you are never allowed to give birth on land. This is my decree. I'm going to use the entirety of my power as queen of the gods to declare that you can never give birth on land. So Leto, who is pregnant, ready to give birth, actually in labor, so she's experiencing all the pains of labors, wanders the earth for years trying to find a land where she can give birth, and everywhere she goes, she gets rejected. Like, the actual earth is like, hell no, I don't want the wrath of Hera. You cannot give birth here. So she's just wandering around, begging and pleading for relief from the pain that she's in because she's constantly having labor pain. So she's just years of contractions. No epidurals. This is ancient Greece. She has to go through this like cold turkey. And she keeps praying for Aletheia, the actual goddess of childbirth and delivery, an important distinction from Hera. She is responsible for the labor delivery part of childbirth. Aletheia never comes. And finally, like, listening to her pleas, everybody is aware that Leto is going through it. Poseidon is like, you know what? In the ocean, there's this island that's just floating around. It's not connected to any land. You can come give birth here because due to this incredible technicality, it's not actually land. It's a piece of rubble in the sea. And Leto's like, thank God I'm there. So she shows up on the island, which is the island of Delos, which is a floating island, not connected to any land. And she's finally able to rest, sit down, and give birth. And she is greeted immediately by Aletheia, who's like, I have been waiting so long to help you through this. I am so sorry I'm late. There wasn't anything I could do. And Aletheia grants her a effortless, painless childbirth. Out pops Artemis, and she is walking and talking, ready to go, because she's been kicking it in her mom's womb for like years. She's ready to go. She's like, let's do this. I'm ready for life, guys. And Hera's like, oh, you got around me on a technicality, but you don't get to have assistance. So she whisked away Aletheia, and now Leto has no one to assist her to have a painless, effortless birth. So she has to labor for 9 days straight, stuck in the like position of giving birth painfully because Hera could not keep herself from being petty. Luckily, little baby Artemis is there, and she acts as a midwife to her mother immediately after being born and ensures that her brother is born safely and both of them survive the process, which is where Artemis gets her role as being the goddess of midwives. She midwifed her mother being less than a day old, and she did that for 9 days. So Apollo is now successfully born. Her twin is there. They're kind of like fraternal twins in the sense that like Artemis is sort of pale and dark, and Apollo is bright and sunny, if you can see where this is going. But they're bored. Leto is relieved to be done with this whole process. I bet that girl slept for like months and was just like, fuck it, whatever, you guys take care of yourself, because this has been exhausting and I am done. And Zeus pops down. He whisks up his little godchildren and he's like, takes them up to Olympus so he can have a quote unquote weekend, as gods measure it, I bet, with his kids, with, you know, Big Daddy Zeus on Olympus. And he's up there, he's spoiling them rotten, like giving them everything they asked for, granting their request. He gives them godly forged by Hephaestus bows and arrows that are gold and silver. So the gold one for Apollo and silver for Artemis. And he gives them the maids that they're going to rule over, because these children are full-fledged gods. So Artemis gets the forest and the moon, and Apollo gets sun and music. And he's like, great, these children are the bestest. He keeps them for a while. And during this time where Leto's supposed to be chilling and like recovering from this super traumatic birth like cycle, Hera's like, you know what, I'm not over it. I might have to deal with these kids being in my house, but I'm just not over it. So she sends a huge python to torment Leto, and the python chases her from the island and follows her endlessly, tirelessly across the earth so she can never get proper rest. So Apollo, who has spent quite a bit of time with his dad up on Olympus, Artemis probably like effed off the second they gave her the forest and was like, I don't even care what happens anymore, guys. I did my part. I got born and I made sure the sun god was born. So I think I've done enough. So she dips, and Apollo's up there. He's grown by this point. He's a young man, probably like early teens as far as gods measure it at this point. And he's like mad. He is mad because his stepmommy is being mean to his mommy. And he has this gold bow. So he's like, all right, I'm going to make archery one of my attributes. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to slay the python. So that's what he does. He goes down to earth. He catches up with his mom. He slays the python with his bow and arrow. And the spot where he strikes the python down becomes the center of like Apollonian worship. It's also the future spot of the Oracle of Delphi, which is his vehicle, because he's also the god of prophecy. So the oracle that tells Psyche's dad that she's going to get married to a horrible monster, it's at Delphi. Apollo did it. He set this whole thing up. So Apollo goes back to Olympus, and he's like on his little victory tour. He's telling everyone how great it is. He killed the python. He's super proud of himself. He's gonna go tell his dad. His dad's gonna be like, "I'm proud of you, son." Like, he's just super, super stoked to, tell everyone how amazing he is for killing this python. I'm pretty sure he didn't brag to Hera about it, because she would have been a little bit more than salty. I'm pretty sure. But while he's like running around telling everyone how great he is, remember, he's like a teenager at this point. So we'll cut him a little bit of slack for being an egomaniac. He sees this little chubby baby boy playing with a bow, and he starts to mock this baby, like just absolutely bully him for not having this amazing gold bow given to him by Zeus. Like, Zeus gave him a bow. He didn't give this kid a bow. This kid's got this little shitty wooden bow. And he's like, "You're just a baby. Like, babies can't be archers." And he starts picking on this kid who doesn't say anything. This kid's just like, all right. Keeps playing with his bow. He strings it. He gets an arrow from his quiver. And Apollo's like, "What are you going to do? You're going to shoot me? You can't shoot me. You're just a baby." And this kid's like, all right. I hear you. I hear that. And I raise you this. So he shoots him. And Apollo feels nothing. And he's like, "Huh, you missed me. What a surprise. You're a dumb baby." And this boy still doesn't say anything, but Apollo continues on his way because he's already said everything he can possibly say. He only knows 2 insults, and that was dumb and baby. So he's said everything he could possibly say, and he goes off and starts to look around because he's like, "Man, I feel kind of weird. I feel like a little loose, like anything could happen." And he's looking around. He looks through the clouds, and down there on the mortal plane, he sees this nymph, and he's like, "What? How beautiful is she?" So he pops off down there. And at this point, the baby's like, all right. So the baby gets up. He gets a different arrow, this time a black arrow, out of his quiver. And he shoots the girl, the nymph, with this black arrow. If you haven't guessed already, this baby is Eros. The arrow that he shot Apollo with was the arrow of love. So that made him fall instantly in love with the nymph Daphne, who he hits with the arrow of hate. So when Apollo jumps down there, he sees Daphne. Daphne sees him. She's struck by this arrow, and instead of being wowed by his godly beauty like most women would be, she is disgusted. She is filled with this loathing and just this fear of what she's seeing in front of her, this horrible creature that has just appeared before her. She's like, "What? Gross. I hate this guy." So she takes off before Apollo can even say anything. And he's like, "Hey, girl, what's your name? Like, how are you?" And she just starts running. And he's like, "What? I'm the god Apollo. Nobody runs from me." But also, he's been drugged with a love arrow. So he has no rational mindset. He's just like, "Wait a minute. Come back. I love you. And I'm trying to tell you I love you. And you're running away from me." So he chases her down. And they're running everywhere, over hill, in the valley, under trees, over rocks, like everywhere they can go. Daphne is on this full out run. She's not looking back. Apollo keeps trying to call out to her. He's like, "Hey, just hear me out. I just want to tell you how much I love you. Like, I'm not trying to hurt you or anything." And she can't even hear him. She is so filled with rage and like fear that she's just running and running and running and running. And eventually she realizes she's not going to outrun this god. Like, there's no way she's going to get away from him. So she calls out to her father, who's a river god, and she's like, "Dad, please save me. Like, this god is chasing me and I don't know what to do." And the only thing her dad can do is turn her into a tree. So that's what he does. He turns her into a laurel tree, and it's not a great plan. It's not even a plan. It's sort of a bad idea altogether because she can't be untransformed from this tree. She's stuck as a tree forever now. And when Apollo catches up to her, he he tries to turn her back, but doesn't work. He tries to plead with her to come out of the tree. She can't. She's gone. She's just a tree now. Um, and he confesses his love to her, hoping that that will change something. Nothing happens. Daphne is gone forever. Apollo is filled with this horrible regret and longing. He doesn't understand why she ran in the first place. He's just super in love with her, and he can never have her because she's stuck in this tree forever. So he does the only thing he can think of, which is to take some leaves from the tree and turns it into the crown that he wears forever, which has also become a symbol of Apollo and rulers in general, which is a crown of laurel leaves. So there's a lot of Greek statues and Roman statues even where you see them wearing that crown of leaves. That's where this comes from. It is the crown of laurel leaves that he got from Daphne when she turns into a laurel tree. And at this point, this just starts this huge lifelong feud between Eros and Apollo. Eros the baby, Apollo the teen. Apollo's first love out of the gate when he's at the top of the world turns into a tree because Eros was like, fuck around and find out. And that's exactly what happened. And then later on, when Apollo finds love with Hyacinthus, he has to deal with Zephyr, who happens to be best buddies with Eros, who kills him out of spite and jealousy. And, this continues all the way up to the Eros and Psyche story, where Apollo has this series of bad love experiences, which I could go into here, but I'm not going to because I don't want this video to be super long. But, it goes all the way up to the Eros and Psyche story where Psyche's dad goes to get that message from the Oracle, and Apollo's like, you know what? Fuck that guy. He's a monster. And that's exactly what the Oracle tells the dad. And so sets up the whole plot of the story because Psyche thinks that she's going to be marrying a monster when in reality it's just Eros, the god of love. So you can kind of blame Apollo a little bit for the entire thing that happens between Eros and Psyche, but I don't think it's undeserved. I think Eros absolutely deserves that because he never gives Apollo a break. And he did this to Daphne, poor Daphne. She's just out there living her life, picking some flowers, doing nymph things in the field. And then all of a sudden this god comes down, but she doesn't see it as a god. She sees this horrible, terrifying being, and she takes off at a run. And then when she asks for help, the only thing that can happen is that her life has to end and she has to spend the rest of her days as a freaking tree to get away from this guy. What a mess. What a mess. Eros is the true villain, I feel, in most Greek mythology, but here especially, poor Daphne. Justice for Daphne. Apollo recovers. He's fine. He continues to find love over and over again. It just doesn't work out very well. And there's a lot of speculative belief that it has to do with the fact that Eros is you picked on me when I was a baby, and never let it go. So yeah, that's the story. That's a little bit of info about Apollo. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I am looking forward to our next story for this month. Remember, we're telling love stories. If you have a story that you want me to tell, though, let me know in the comments below. I am always taking submissions, as I love your guys' ideas. You guys have some really fun suggestions that I wouldn't have personally picked. So I'm really excited to check those out and get more into those. So I'm always taking requests. Definitely leave those below and then let me know what you think. Who's the bad guy here? Let me know in the comments below and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Till then, I appreciate your faces. Happy crafting. Bye.